Good morning to all. Of all the medical terms that we have learnt until now, today is something different because it involves a system, the peripheral nervous system, abbreviated as PNS. What is the significance of this system? Well, it is another type of the nervous system. Of course, it is outside the central nervous system, but linking the central nervous system with the body. So, do we have different types? Of course. The two main types of the PNS is the SNS and the ANS. SNS refers to the somatic nervous system. ANS refers to the autonomic nervous system. When considering the somatic nervous system, it includes the two types of neurons, the sensory, the neuron which receives the impulses, and the motor neuron which sends the action with respect to the impulse or the stimulus. When we look at the autonomic nervous system, it is divided to three types: the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the enteric. So, sympathetic and parasympathetic generally works in opposite ways. That is, for example, if the heart rate is increased by the sympathetic, it is decreased by the parasympathetic. We generally denote the terms like fight and flight for sympathetic, as well as rest and digest for parasympathetic. But if you consider the enteric, it's a semi independent division which controls the gastrointestinal tract specifically. If you remember in one of my earlier shots, we had referred to the enteric nervous system. Right. So now, if you look at the components, there are three, that is, nerves and the ganglia, cranial nerves, and the plexus. So, nerves, of course, the neurons, and cluster of cell bodies is what we call as the ganglia. 12 pairs of cranial nerves sending impulses to specific regions, and the plexus are the anterior branches. And there are three types: the cervical, the brachial, and the lumbosacral. So, overall, the cellular elements of the PNS includes the neurons, obviously, the glial cells or the supporting cells known as the Schwann cells, and the myelin sheath. So we have this PNS for the purpose of sensory inputs and definitely for the motor outputs like to contract the muscle and to maintain